Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalam ala rasulillah, and assalamu alaikum, dear brother Gabriel, to Ibn Thabit Falak. How are you doing today?
Wa alaikum salam wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. Thank you.
Alhamdulillah. In favor of your work slogan, real problems, real solutions, we would like to address ignorance and disrespect of scholarship and knowledge per se, with an emphasis on spreading falsehood in mostly basic Islamic matters through social media. Since you are an expert in the field of human psyche, what are the motives of speaking without knowledge and what consequences occur with that might?
Inshallah, bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam rasulillah, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. We're living in an era of conflicting ethics and morals. What is morality? What is truth? Everything has become relative. Put aside the non-Muslims, that's a different debate as to what is morality and where we can derive morality from. But within the Muslim, for someone who says, well, I'm a Muslim and I'm doing something for Islam. I'm representing Islam on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube. And this is what I can do. I want to give people the true image of Islam. So when people claim to represent Islam on social media, they have to make sure that they're represented in the correct way. If they make a mistake, which all of us make, they should rectify their mistake. And it shouldn't be based on their agenda and what they like. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, فَأْتُوا بُرْحَانَكُمْ إِن كُنْتُمْ صَادِقِينَ. So bring your proof if you are indeed from the truthful. With social media, everyone can think, everyone can do, and everyone can claim, and depends on how good they are at marketing and to attract people, then they will get a following. Sadly, again, in this 21st century, 2022, if you have 1 million followers, you're already qualified as a scholar. Somehow you got the stamp of halal, yani, okay? It's like you have graduated from the University of Instagram and Facebook. If we want to just go to the psychological aspects of it, people need attention. Human beings need attention. This is how Allah created us. We need to be validated. However, we see that today there's false validation. So now this validation, the clicks, the likes, have a psychological impact on your well-being, on your self-worth. And if those go down, your self-worth goes down and the way you feel about yourself. And there's studies about that. They're spreading the wrong information because they can. There's an encouragement, there's a platform, there's a need for attention, there's a hunger for attention, for likes, and there's a platform that actually encourages you to just be yourself, meaning whatever you're thinking, just do it.
Thank you very much. And this leads me directly to another question. What qualifies someone to speak about Islam in general?
But what qualifies someone to speak about Islam? So there's different levels of qualification, right? You have, even in the traditional studies of Islam, you would have, for example, someone who's considered a hafid, for example, right? Like, for example, al-Hafid Ibn Hajar, right? He's called al-Hafid. Okay, and then you would have someone who's called Sheikh al-Islam. And Sheikh al-Islam is not only Ibn Taymiyyah. Different people have held these titles. So different qualifications. For example, if you memorize like 1 million hadith or over 1 million hadith, someone would be qualified as a hafid. Okay, not a hafid the Quran. Actually, being a hafid the Quran doesn't necessarily qualify to be a scholar. There's a mufti who is qualified and able to give fatwas. Then there is a sheikh or an alim. Then there is a talib or talibul ilm. A talib, actually, many of the scholars have said that if you haven't memorized the 6 books of hadith and memorized the Quran and have studied some, real strong fiqh, you're not really even a talib or a student of knowledge. And then you have something where, as the Prophet said, "Ballighu anni walau ayah," right? Someone who does balagha, or who is talking and conveys the knowledge of the scholars. Okay, a da'i, for example. Now, not every student of knowledge is actually able to give da'wah, though. That's what we have to also understand. They might have the knowledge, but they don't have the pedagogy or the ability. And that's also very, very important. The spectrum of knowledge of Islam is very important, but there's an amana as the Prophet ﷺ said, there's principles in Sharia, right? There's principles that we cannot violate. And one of those principles is that you shouldn't speak what you don't know. And to say about Allah what you don't know. Then you shouldn't speak what you don't preach, what you don't practice. Why you say what you don't do? There is a sector of people who just speak whatever the heck they want. They don't know what they're doing. They claim to be sheikhs and this and that. People need to understand. People throw the word sheikh around a lot. Even for me, I'm not a sheikh. I've been saying that many times. People say, sheikh, brother Gabriel, sheikh. I'm not a sheikh. We are conveying. For me, I'm only conveying what I learned from my teachers and what we are learning from our teachers. Okay, we are conveying. They tell us, we repackage it to be good for the West, for example, for the English-speaking community, but we stick within those principles. If someone asks me a question, I don't give my question from me. I will make sure I have the question from one of the scholars, and then I will pass that on. We are not making our own fatawas, you know what I mean? And everyone does that. You have to be very, very careful. If we follow those principles, inshallah, of Islam, and we speak only what we know, and we convey the knowledge from the scholars, and we be clear about our position, and we're evidence-based, then inshallah the problems will be reduced.
SubhanAllah, La ilaha. So glad for your answer. How can we implement this mindset of authentic knowledge seeking and humble behavior in our daily lives?
Okay, that's a very good point. It is a fitna. Even knowledge can become a fitna. You look at your heart and you see people praising you or people following you. Sufyan al-Thawri, rahimahullah, who was in a mountain of hadith, he used to say that the most difficult thing upon me was my intention. First and foremost, a person has to purify themselves. And this is one of the branches of Islamic knowledge that has been ignored, which is called tazkiyatun nafs, purification of the soul. I don't think a person can qualify as a da'i, as a propagator, not a scholar, not a sheikh. I'm talking about someone who takes from the sheikh and gives to the people and calls them to the deen if he doesn't pray qiyam. Because this is very heavy. This Quran and this amana is very heavy. Tazkiyatun nafs, it is a science that most people have forgotten about. Purification of the heart is huge. It's very important. It's linked to our aqidah. And that's why the Prophet ﷺ taught people iman before the rules and before the Sharia really came with detailed laws. They learned iman. But there's a progression. There's a tarbiyah, is turabbi, to build something, to take it from a point to another point. It has a progression. It has tadrij, or gradualism. This is the curriculum of the Prophet ﷺ. That's the problem. We don't follow that. So then you get these extremes and everything in between, and people jumping left and right and missing the target.